Good evening, everyone. Happy to see you all. Happy Thursday. It's another beautiful day here in the Napa Valley. It's great to see everybody. I hope you all have a glass of Sauvignon Blanc in your hands, and a big hello to all our friends on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube who are joining us that way. Welcome. It's great to see you all tonight. Be sure to post your questions on whatever platform you are, and we'll try and get them up on the Zoom chat and get answers out to you and get those grills ready. Getting ready for the big 4th of July weekend. It's going to be a lot more celebratory than we had last year, that's for sure, and a good chance to check in with Chef Tod and pick up some great tips. We're drinking the Napa Estate Sauvignon Blanc tonight and that fantastic Dollarhide Malbec that's almost all gone. So you wine club members are lucky to have it. So we're lucky to have you joining us tonight. So let's pop over to the kitchen and check in with Chef Tod first on the tips to get those grills ready and going. Look at that view at Dollarhide Ranch, 79 degrees. Beautiful clear sky. Doesn't it make you want to come visit us here in Napa Valley? Oh, it's just a gorgeous day. So Chef, what should we be doing to get the grills ready?
Hi, everyone. Hope you're getting your grill ready, whether you are grilling tonight after this session that you see here, or getting ready to grill for July 4th for the holidays, or actually even more for summertime as we're heading into summer. Hopefully you take advantage of grilling outside since it's such a fun thing to do. What I would recommend for sure is making sure that you have all your parts to the grill all cleaned and seasoned, all ready to go. There's a lot of different ways to prepare them. You want to make sure that everything's nice and clean. Maybe you change the grill pan underneath, or the foil lining that you have underneath there. You definitely want to have all the equipment that you need, from a nice scrubber that you can clean the grates, as well as all your tongs, your utensils, and things that you might need. If you need a thermometer, you can use a digital probe thermometer. That would be a great way to judge the internal doneness of some of your thicker cuts of steaks and things like that, to make sure they don't overcook. And then your fuel source, all depending on what type of grill you'd like to use. If you've got gas, and then you're in good shape, make sure your tank is full. I know that I ran out the last time I had mine going, so luckily it was at the very end. Likewise, charcoal briquettes or any kind of lump charcoal. And I happen to be lucky to have today the big green egg, small version right here in the kitchen that I've got fired up. That's ready to go. So it's a new toy that I have in the kitchen that I can play with. We also have a large green egg out in the outside area there that we're going to take advantage of that as well. So as far as any of your grills that you have, you want to make sure that you've got a good wiping cloth so that you can wipe down the grates. You want to make sure that you preheat them ahead of time so they have time to not only clean and sterilize from whatever you cooked previously ahead of time, but then you also want to kind of oil them very lightly to make sure that the grates have kind of a seasoning over the top there, so your food has less chance of sticking on there. And then again, whatever your fuel source is, whatever your fuel type is, whether it's using wood, maybe even using some smoking chips or something like that, your charcoal briquettes, just make sure that you've got them all fired up and ready to go when it comes time to start your grilling. You may also want to keep nearby a spray bottle of water that you can use to kind of extinguish any little flare-ups that might cause any kind of a bitter or dark or charred look on the outside there before you're actually ready to pull your food off of the grill. So just little tips like that will help, I think, to make your whole grilling experience a lot easier. And then definitely don't forget, you want to have a nice chilled glass of Sauvignon Blanc, our Napa Valley Sauvignon Blanc we're talking about today. Perfect for the grill and for the hot weather that we're going to be experiencing. Everyone is having kind of across the nation. So if you have a tasty cold beverage like this, make sure you stay hydrated with water as well, and enjoy.
Well, thank you, Tod. I certainly have my glass of Sauvignon Blanc with me. I'm drinking the 2020 Sauvignon Blanc from our Dollarhide Ranch today. And I don't know how many of you are drinking the 2019. That tends to be what's available around the country in the marketplace, but do share with us which vintage you're trying and what you think of it. We've got Asael Gonzalez Azavida out at the Dollarhide Ranch. Asael, you remember from some of our other virtual tastings. He's our assistant winemaker. He's been with us quite a long time at St. Supéry, and he spent the last almost 6 months doing a rotation out in the vineyard. We all know that growing grapes is the best way to make the best wine and growing the very best grapes. So doing a little cross training out there before he pops back to the cellar for harvest. But Asael, you're there on the top of parcel 10, and we're drinking some delicious Sauvignon Blanc. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the differences between the 2020 and 2019 parcels of Sauvignon Blanc that we have?
Excellent. Yeah, for sure, Emma. So right now I'm here at the top of the parcel 10. It's a bit windy. Hopefully you guys can hear me properly. What you're tasting, Emma, is the 2020, which it's quite a unique wine, since all that wine comes from a single parcel, which is quite remarkable. We couldn't really harvest many other parcels during 2020 due to fires, but we could harvest before everything happened. That parcel 14 that you have on that bottle 2020. So even though it only comes from one parcel, we managed to capture what we can do here at Supery, which is a really fresh, a really vibrant wine in the nose, in the palate. In the nose presents those citrus-driven characteristics that are known for St. Supéry to produce. And on top of that, this parcel 14 that is end up being on that 2020 wine, it's on a hillside. It's on a steep hill, which is rare to have. Sauvignon Blanc usually is planted on flat areas, so this makes that parcel to ripen a little earlier in season. So that's our general marker. We have a couple of parcels that get ready to harvest early in season. So that one is one of them. Still, we managed to have the freshness and the fruit, the citrus-driven.
Yeah. Well,
characteristics that we are known for. 2019 is also very fresh.
Okay. Oh, Asael, we're kind of losing you again there.
It's a little bit different in the sense that,
Yeah, I don't know. We had such a great signal earlier, and who knew that wind interferes with the signal? But it looks like we've got you back. We'll try one more time. If you can tell us again, that's great.
Yeah, I was saying, hopefully you heard the 2020 part coming from one single parcel hillside, which is exceptional. 2019 has other layers because we managed to harvest all of our ranch, which we have around 40 parcels. And 2019 is still has that freshness that we're known for, but it also has another layer of stone fruit and a little more tropical notes in it. Again, both of them are really, really good, really exceptional wines, really fresh. All of them are 100% stainless steel fermented, which it just keeps the purity of the fruit, and that's what you're looking in that, in tasting and smelling on that glass.
Yeah, it's really delicious. So how is the Sauvignon Blanc doing right now, this far along in the season? Are we getting close to veraison or?
Yeah, you're right. You're right, Emma. We are awaiting for veraison. So right now the grapes are looking good. That shot is from parcel 13. That's from parcel 15. That's an older parcel which has really good vigor. The canopy is looking really nice. The clusters are also getting bigger, still green, but it's awaiting only for veraison in a couple of weeks. So yeah, many other things we're doing here in the ranch throughout this week, and you guys have been following. We've been wrapping up, wiring up our shoots. So basically we have 2 wires around each row of vines. So we leave them up, and then we put all those shoots in a vertical position. That's the name of the training system we have, which is vertical shoot positioning, in order to make our agricultural practices easier and more efficient in the field. So we've been doing a lot of things. As well, we've been leafing our vines, as you can see on the video. So we are removing a couple of leaves in order to partially expose the clusters and promote ripening on those, to promote color development during variation as well. We don't want to over remove leaves, because this year with the drought, we struggle a bit with the size and the length of those shoots. So the canopy is really important, because the leaves and the area of the surface of the leaves is the surface that's gonna create the metabolites, the nutrients to ripen that fruit later on. So we removed some of them, not many leaves this year, just to promote even ripening. And so that's what's happening here with the Sauvignon Blanc. And hopefully in a couple of weeks, we'll start seeing variation happening.
Awesome. Well, it looks good out there, and this wine is absolutely delicious. And I know Chef Tod, with that really cute big green egg in the kitchen, has some delicious shrimp planned for us. So Chef, what should we be doing to get those shrimp on the Barbie?
So my big green, little mini Max green egg back here. The big egg is outside. This one is basically all fired up. I've had it going for quite some time now, so it's already. I have the shrimp that are basically a sustainable seafood. I've used these in the past, and I'm a big fan of them. These happen to be shrimp from Kauai. They are farm raised in Hawaii, and they have a fantastic farm system that will allow them to be flown over fresh, head on. You see, they're beautiful.
Gorgeous.
I like these in this particular kind of preparation to go onto the grill, because I'm going to leave them in the shell. So this is kind of one of those rustic peel and eat kind of things. Get your hands dirty in there, and have some finger licking good, delicious shrimp to go with this. But I'm leaving this shell on them. They're a wonderful kind of a clean, sweet flavor, and the texture is really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and marinate these up ahead of time. And you can do this by the recipe. I've got some herbs you can see here, olive oil. There's some slivered garlic in here instead of a lot of chopped garlic, so they don't take a chance of burning. So you've got the flavor of the slivered garlic that permeates into the oil. There's some salt and pepper and fresh herbs that go so well with Sauvignon Blanc. Anytime you got fresh, bright herbs like dill, fennel, chives, or parsley, I think it's a great match to go along with it. So by having these shrimp on the whole, fresh, and putting a skewer on them so they're easier to handle or put onto the grill and to turn them, but also to be able to pick up and have a skewer afterwards so that you can peel them out after. What I like to do with these shrimp basically is take maybe a pair of shears or scissors and score the backside where the vein is. So you want to make sure that that's nice and clean. You want to get that sand vein out, okay? And then you want to take your bamboo skewers or whatever skewers you have. If they're bamboo or wood, you might want to soak them in cold water. So that's what I typically do, just to keep them from flaring up if they happen to hit a hot spot on the grill. And then from there, I'm going to go ahead and kind of lay the shrimp down flat so that I can skewer it from the tail up towards the head. In kind of a straight motion. You can twist just a little bit. And what that will do is kind of hold it all in shape, right like so. So you have it ready to go onto the grill. Easy on, easy off. And then into your marinade. So once you have that into your marinade, you want to go at least half an hour, but they benefit by having a little extra time in there. There is actually some lemon juice in there as well. So by doing so, you can get that marinade to kind of permeate in. It'll get underneath the shell. It'll start to flavor the actual tail meat that's in there. And then you should be good to go. You can refrigerate those and have them kind of marinated up ahead, anywhere from an hour to 2 hours in advance. And you can see that I've got them here already done. Some of the marinade still on there. It's not extremely dripping in the marinade. I am going to wipe off the majority of that before they go onto the grill so that they don't flare up, and then you have basically a charred or sooty kind of a look and a burnt oil taste. So just enough coating on there. Good aromatics from lemon zest and the garlic. Also, there's salt and pepper on these ahead of time. So now with these, with my grill all ready to go, you can go to your big green egg. And the big green egg is basically a very popular like a outdoor cooking toy that you have. And I'll give you a little peek over here to show you what it looks like. It's got this fantastic kind of a porcelain on the outside, beautiful color. It has the dimples that help as far as the surface area. It is a pretty solid one. This one is called their Mini Max, and it's a new toy. You can see that up on top, there's a damper that will allow the smoke and the heat to kind of come out. There's a temperature gauge right here, and there is underneath here a vent for circulation. So essentially the air makes this kind of a convection kind of a motion there. So it starts at the bottom, the heat source is underneath there, and they have a fantastic blend of oak and hickory as far as some lump charcoal. And if you fill that in there, you light it up with their beeswax and cardboard natural kind of a lighter that they have to start it with. You just close it, and within 15 to 20 minutes, your temperature is up and you're ready to start to grill. So it's a pretty efficient system. Here, I'll show you, I have some shrimp on there already. I wanted to get them going. You can see the coals. They are not necessarily flared up, but what they do is they heat up this thick shell that you see here. That is the ceramic that's inside. So it's almost like pottery that's been fired at an extreme kiln, very, very hot. And it creates this wonderful kind of an oven type of a feel to it, where when you close it, it keeps the moisture in, it helps keep the heat in, and your food should turn out more flavorful because it's concentrated from the smoke and the ash that you have there, as well as the temperature that you have coming from here. So in a very short time, depending on how hot you want it, you can control it by opening this up high and closing this. This is more like your gas pedal, your accelerator down here, and this is more like your brake. And so if you were to close it, that would actually choke off the fire. That's what you do at the end of the day if you're done with your big green egg. And so this way you can open it up, you've got full air circulation, and you should have a pretty good amount of heat going on there. So you can see they don't take very long. I don't have any flare-ups. I'm gonna go ahead and put just a couple more on here. Remember, these are already seasoned up with some salt and pepper, and you can always hit them with some fresh lemon juice after they come off the grill as well. So this is good, a good method to do for something that takes a short period of time. I am still gonna close it even though it can cook without, it can cook fine without the lid up. But the idea is that with this kind of a lid, with that thick layer that you have in there and that intense heat that's concentrated, this is a really good way to cook it so that the moisture stays inside. And all. If you wanted to cook on a lower temperature, obviously, you could have the same amount of coals in there. You just close this damper so you limit the amount of oxygen that goes in, the temperature stays lower, and you also close this a bit. So now it's at a lower temp for a thicker protein, maybe chicken, something like that, something that takes a longer time to cook as opposed to something that you want to cook quickly. But if you want to do something quick like shrimp, some quick cooking seafood, maybe some burgers or something like that, then you can do it over a higher temperature like that. So the first ones are probably just about done. I can tell by the color on them, the look on them. See, they pick up a really nice kind of a smoke flavor to it. And so I'm gonna pull those off. And what I did ahead of time also is I took as a fun garnish, I've done this before, you might have seen, but it's basically a fresh lemon that you take and just cut it in half, pat it dry, and then put that on the hot spot onto your grill there. And what that will do is give you a grilled or a charred lemon. And if you were to smell these, if we had smell-o-vision coming through the Zoom right now, you'd be able to smell this really intense, kind of a slightly smoky. It definitely picks up some of that wonderful smoke that you pick up from the big green egg inside there, but it also kind of caramelizes. You can smell that little bit of char on there. So it changes the flavor of that lemon, and it's wonderful. Still works well with the wine. And so all you need to do is take our shrimp off. Fun way to enjoy them. Everyone can grab a stick.
Gorgeous. And they're so pretty, and it's a wonderful way to pass them around and let everybody grab one.
Sure.
Devin's asking what temperature. I'm assuming he means for the shrimp. Is
Right.
that correct?
And so in this case, you can do them two different ways, and they give you a lot of variables and options. If you wanted to cook them slow and low, you can do that. So if you wanted it at a low temp, maybe about 325 degrees, you can do that. Otherwise, if you want to go more like straightforward grill, not so much about the lid closed, you can definitely turn it up and go to about 400 degrees. So 400 to 425 degrees, that's going to be much more like a hot grill that you're on and off very quick on. So there's two different ways you can approach it. Cook it very quickly and kind of get the nice char and everything on the outside, or you can cook at a lower temperature and cover the lid, and it will kind of cook nice and soft in there. And you pick up a lot more of the aromatics that are perfumed from the inside of that egg. Now just to hit it with a little bit of fresh lemon juice over there. And you can kind of experiment with it if you do happen to have an egg. If you happen to have any other kind of a kettle grill, the same idea. When you, as soon as you cover it, you're creating that kind of convection oven effect that goes on there. And so this should be really delicious with the citrus tones that you pick up in the Sauvignon Blanc, that brightness in there, those fresh herbs, and the fact that it's some wonderful sweet seafood. It's got umami in there. It's delicious. It's a great sustainable seafood product, and it goes really well with our Sauvignon Blanc wine. So I hope you give that a try, or any other type of seafood that you want to try. If you happen to have a big green egg or a mini max green egg like this one, they're fun to experiment with. They have a lot of different recipes on their website that you can try if you happen to have that type. It's actually based on the old, centuries old style of cooking in that egg shape, where it creates that kind of nice oven, that kind of convection oven where the heat starts to the bottom, it comes up to the top, but it all basically stays inside. So it's the idea of everything kind of staying inside where it perfumes and cooks the food. That Kamado style of a grill is what it's kind of known as.
Well, it's certainly fantastic. I know the first time I saw a big green egg was actually at fine dining in Holland, and the chefs were using them in the kitchen. It was amazing what they were doing, all different styles of cooking, and seeing the little mini maxes laid out under the hoods for grilling in the restaurant too. It's quite impressive. I don't think I can put one in my home inside, but I definitely could see taking one on the road when you're going camping, because it's just going to be a much better outdoor barbecue experience than
yeah, that would be really fun. In this case, I do have the fan on. Typically I don't, so it might be a little more noisy background noise here, but I do have to have the commercial fan, and it is underneath the fan, so it's drawing up any potential smoke or excess smell. But really, the way that hard charcoal, that lump charcoal, it just kind of smolders there, and it really creates the smell, but it heats up the inside walls in there. And so it's not one of those that's going to be an extreme flare up. I'm not using hard wood in there or anything like that that could cause a flame. So it's much more concentrated and controllable. So from an inside standpoint, with a commercial fan, a really strong fan, I can use the smaller version inside the kitchen.
So Todd, Bart's asking, what's your view about freezing those shrimp?
About freezing the shrimp?
Yep, or
so
having frozen.
If you buy frozen shrimp, you can definitely still use them in this kind of preparation. What you want to do is make sure that they are number one, from a sustainable source, and that they are hopefully frozen properly in the first place. The way that they handle them, maybe right on the boat, they'll go into a deep freeze. A lot of times what they'll do is they'll take the head off because they don't want any contact with the innards or the head. And so they will have just the tail, but they could still be shell on, which is a good thing, because a lot of ways it protects the meat itself, and it's much more versatile that way. So you can either cook them in the shell where you get the flavor, as I did right here. A lot of the flavor goes into the actual tail meat. Plus, it kind of protects it and keeps it from drying out too much if it's overcooked. Once they are frozen, though, if they are IQF, individually quick frozen, versus a bulk pack that is packed in water and maybe a solution, you're going to get much better results if it's a dry pack individual quick frozen. That means that they're quickly frozen individually, so that when you go to thaw them, put them into your refrigerator, maybe the day before. They don't take all that long to thaw out. Just go ahead and put them into your refrigerator and allow them to softly and gently kind of thaw out. And then when you're ready to cook them, go ahead, take them out, pat them dry, go ahead and do whatever seasoning. If you're going to try this recipe, go ahead, put them into the marinade, let them marinate from there. But whatever way that you wanted to use them from there, as long as you thaw them gently under refrigeration, don't put them into a boil of water. You don't want to speed up that whole process and put hot water over them or anything like that. It's just going to mess up the texture of them, and they'll tend to really dry out and become tough because they're going to release too much water, too much of their natural moisture. But you can definitely do frozen shrimp because in a lot of ways they're convenient, and as long as they're done in the right way, it's a great product still.
Yeah, and I think you want to really look for U.S. shrimp just because of the sustainability factor, or for sure check your Monterey-based Seafood Guide app to make sure you're getting a sustainable product too.
Sure. They have done a lot of improvements on some of the aquaculture for fish shrimp farms all throughout. So as long as you're watching which ones and using that Seafood Watch app, maybe you have one on your phone or something like that, you'll sure to get a better quality shrimp from that way.
Well, those look delicious, Todd. I'm ready to have one with the Sauvignon Blanc, but I know that there's tri-tip coming on the barbecue. And so I've also got a nice glass of Malbec here, and which is sort of fitting as Asael is on the top of the hill there, right next to those Malbec vines. Not quite as far along as the Sauvignon Blanc with a later bud break, but definitely moving forward. And we've been watching that parcel kind of all season. So Asael, you want to show us what's going on with the Malbec out there?
Perfect. Yeah. So Malbec is showing right now like this. This is a cluster that I took from one of the vines right here. So this is what is called the Petit Pois in French. It's pea-sized berry. They're very green still. It's quite a loose cluster. They're gonna start getting bigger when we go into variation. So this Malbec tends to be quite prolific. And another thing that we do here at Supéry, it's we thin those clusters. We remove them, we cut them into and drop them into the ground. So we will do that in green. We've been doing that already, and we will do multiple passes. As you can see on that video, we'll cut them, drop them onto the ground. We'll do multiple passes, also during variation. The objective of this is to balance the energy of the plant and to balance how good the ripening will be. So we want each vine to focus in less fruit, so we can have really nice tannin, really nice flavors and aromas that are developed in those grapes. So we are sacrificing some fruit, but with the objective of creating the best fruit in order to make the best wine. So right now here in Malbec, we are doing that. So right after variation, the clusters are gonna start getting bigger. The color is gonna start developing on the skin of that berry, and all the tannins in the seed are gonna start getting ripe as well. So it's gonna go from a green seed into a brown seed, and it's gonna be more like a flesh, juicy berry. It's quite a large cluster. Malbec is a big cluster with big berries, so it's a very juicy, fruit-driven variety. And hopefully you can see that on that wine as well.
Yeah, it's definitely really juicy. That's kind of the expression I always think of with Malbec, because it sort of makes your mouth water a little bit. It brings this juiciness to the wine. Like when we have some in our Alu, I think we've been putting about 10% in lately in the Alu, and it does bring this sort of juicy, mouth-watering feel. But this vintage, the 2017, which is the current vintage for us, you know, that was a really rainy winter that we had in 2017. And then we had lots of heat spikes, very little humidity, really dry. And it was a little bit earlier season for us than usual. But I noticed that you've got about 17% Petit Verdot also from the Dollarhide Ranch in this. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, for sure, Emma. So yeah, as you mentioned, 2017 was quite a hot season. Despite that, we managed to get quite nice ripening on this Malbec. Malbec is a late ripening variety. So for this one, we harvest last 2017, we harvested in October 18th. So it's later in season. So all the chronological stages happen later in season, despite being a hot year. So with the Petit Verdot that we put in there, it's a tiny touch of Petit Verdot, so we can enhance the structure. Petit Verdot is the opposite. Petit Verdot is a really small cluster with really small berries. So what happens is that there is a lot of surface of skin with color, and that's what Petit Verdot gives. Lots of color, lots of tannin, really nice tannin, in order to complement the structure in the palate of that Malbec that you are tasting right now. Another component that is very characteristic of that Petit Verdot is that it gives this characteristic aroma and like subtle violet notes in the nose, which is really nice. Hopefully you can smell that on that glass.
Absolutely. You know, that's a really good point about the size of the berries and how structured Petit Verdot is. As we've talked about, you all know that almost all red grapes are clear, white, pulp, and they get all their color from the skins. And so when you have that higher skin to pulp ratio, you're going to get more structure and tannin from the skins. You're going to extract more structure and color because you have a higher skin to pulp ratio. So we're always thinking about that with some of the clones of Cabernet Sauvignon that are a little bit smaller, where you can get that higher skin to pulp ratio, like with Clone 6 Cabernet Sauvignon. It's another good thing. But the wine is just delicious and really fun to taste. And, Asael, do you have any comments? You spent a lot of time in Bordeaux when you were getting your master's, just on Malbec from our ranch compared to Bordeaux.
Yeah, for sure. So it's interesting because it's very rare to find 100% Malbec in Bordeaux. I probably haven't had the experience of tasting that. Malbec is used mainly as a blender, where you have in the right bank you have mainly Merlot predominant blends, and then on the left bank you have Cabernet Sauvignon predominant blends. Malbec, Petit Verdot, those two are used as accessory, as a blender to help in the structure, in the color. I haven't had a chance to taste 100% Merlot Malbec in Bordeaux. Then compared to the climate, Bordeaux is a continental climate, which tends to, they tend to have a little bit of greener notes, not saying that it's something bad. Just comparing to what we can do here in California, which we have a Mediterranean climate, which is warmer. So we can achieve a really, really nice maturity in this Malbec here. And then we're able to present it as a 100%, or in this case, mostly Malbec. And then similar to Argentina, in Argentina, they have high altitude, really good sunny days to ripen this variety. So I think in the new world, as a single varietal, is showing really nice, and we're really happy to showcase that in that bottle of wine.
Yeah, that's a good point. Having it, because it's one of your latest ripening varietals, the longer your growing season that you have, particularly in our area where we're a little bit warmer, we have a greater chance of coming to full ripeness and not getting any of those sort of green notes that may or may not be desirable. That's a great point, Asael. Well, I think, you mentioned Argentina, and we're having tri-tip and chimichurri. So let's jump over to the arbor and see what Chef's got going on that great big giant big green egg.
Great big giant green egg. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. The sun has been kind of moving around, and as it gets a little bit later in the day, it's falling behind the trees. So I'm in the shadows now, but hopefully you can see. We've got this beautiful big green egg going on here. I did fire this one up earlier to not only season it, to get the heat going in the walls of it all, in that stone, but also the same kind of property applies here. I've got the damper up on top to control the temperature. And then I also have down below the air vent to kind of control that whole convection of everything kind of coming up and going over the top. So what I did ahead of time as far as heating it up was just get it all going, make sure the grill is nice and clean. This is a new model, so I didn't have any buildup in there. But then I also used some tri-tip, and I salted and peppered that really well ahead of time. The tri-tip itself, maybe about 2.5 inches, 2.5 pounds worth also. And it's one of those nice deep roast pieces that by seasoning it up ahead of time, patting it dry, and then brushing it with a little bit of olive oil and some salt and pepper on there, then it's ready to go onto the grill. But want to make sure that after you've seasoned everything, that you pat the excess moisture off before it goes onto the grill. That way, when it hits the grill, it's not going to have as much of a chance of steaming or sticking to the grill itself. So what I have on here, you can see that I've made this up ahead of time, kind of holding it at a lower temperature. Now that I hit my internal temperature, you can use an internal temperature gauge here if you have one of those digital thermometers that you can set according to the internal doneness that you want done. If I pull this at about 125 degrees, there's a good chance after I pull it out and let it rest for up to 10 minutes, it's going to continue and carry over and cook up to about 130 degrees, which is going to be a nice, maybe a medium rare to medium degree of doneness on there. And so you can see it's got some wonderful color. The grains of this, I'll show you as I go to slice it, but they run in one particular direction, and I'm going to make sure that I slice in the opposite direction there. So since I had the grill up and going, I went ahead and took some of our beautiful red onions from the garden, and I just cut them in half, hit them with some olive oil and some salt and pepper. And so I got a nice char, and there's a wonderful smokiness on there. So I'm going to use that as part of a garnish, and you can use any seasonal vegetables you might have, obviously, depending on where you are and what your farmer's market looks like. Here's a wonderful portobello mushroom cap. So if you don't necessarily eat red meat, here's a real meaty kind of a dish or a protein that you can use, a piece of produce that you can put on there. It's a beautiful mushroom cap that, again, was marinated with a little oil, salt, and pepper. You can put garlic on there as well if you wanted to. And so by putting them onto the grill, letting them do their thing, just closing that lid and keeping that hot surrounding temperature all around, you're going to get some really nice flavor development because it's going to soak in or absorb into it. You'll notice that in this particular case, with a thicker piece of protein as opposed to on the shrimp and that small mini max I had, in this one, there's a ceramic piece that they put in here that has space on the sides of it so that the air, so that the heat can actually do a little convection action here. So it's going to come up and around even more, and it's going to avoid a little bit of that direct contact of heat that comes straight underneath, which might be a little too aggressive for the tri-tip itself. So this is called their Convector. It's essentially like a heat diffuser that will allow the heat to kind of cup up around the sides and then into the actual dome section right there. So that's one of the differences if you have a thicker piece or a thick steak or a roast or something, maybe even like a prime rib that you want to go longer. You don't want so much of an intense direct fire or flame. So if you use that diffuser and that convector, you're going to be able to get that nice temperature all the way around. So it kind of roasts and cooks more slowly.
So Todd, what temperature were you cooking that tri-tip at?
So when this first initially went in, I went in at about 400 degrees. And I wanted to pull it out at about 125 degrees, 126 degrees, right in through there. And then I let that go for a while until maybe about 30 minutes. And then I actually turned the temperature up because I wanted to get a little bit of the sear on the outside there. And you can do it in multiple different ways. They even have a recipe or a technique that they have on their website, the Big Green Egg, where you can do the popular reverse sear. So if you start at a very low temperature, you're maybe about 300 degrees, 250 degrees for a longer period of time until you reach that internal temperature, 125. Now take it out, let it sit on a plate, and then open up all of these so that it comes up to an extreme hot temperature. These can get all the way up to about 750 degrees, even to the point where you could do a pizza in there. So now if you heat it up and allow it to get really hot, it doesn't take very long. You would open this up and open up this one and allow all that oxygen to really flare up and heat the intense heat in here, and also preheat the grill even hotter. So now when you go back in to that extreme hot, what you're doing is getting the sear and the flavor development on the outside. And that's kind of the reverse sear method. I've done that for steaks in the oven before in a hot pan. This is basically the same idea of cooking it slowly in here first and then finishing with the hot sear on the outside afterwards.
Well, Todd, I've seen you do that reverse sear, and I know that is the modern method of cooking a steak, and it really makes a difference in just ensuring it's perfect every time. I see Ryan's just posted your compound red wine butter with the reverse seared steak on the chat if anyone's looking for that recipe. But the steak looks fantastic. Did you put the vegetables on at the same time, or how long were they on?
I actually put them on a little bit later, maybe about 20 minutes after. I just went ahead and put them on off to the side just a little bit. And then once they're done, you can definitely pull them off and then just rewarm them after. So don't worry so much about trying to time them perfectly. You know, if you want to take your time and make sure that the protein in the meat has the perfect temperature before you adjust it or increase the temperature up or down, you can do that ahead. And so if you wanted to have your vegetables on, go ahead and grill them or get them nice and roasted, and then maybe just warm them up afterwards. So it'll save a little bit of the last minute kind of headache of possibility of overcooking something or undercooking something. Right? So basically with the tri-tip here, after it comes off, mine is well rested. This is a low temperature now, but you want to let it rest for maybe about 10 minutes or so. And what that's going to do is allow the muscle to kind of relax, as opposed to have all that hot energy in there. And it allows all the juice to kind of stay put inside of the meat. It allows the meat to relax, the tissue to relax, so that when you slice into it, it's much more tender. You have a much nicer kind of a mouthfeel and a bite as you chew it.
And so after it rests, then you can go ahead and slice it. What I have made ahead of time was the chimichurri. So if you're familiar with that, it's a very popular kind of a fresh herb sauce that goes along with a lot of the grilled meats that are either from Uruguay or Argentina. And there's a lot of different variations and personal tastes on them. They typically always have some fresh herbs in there, as in the sense of either parsley. Some have cilantro if you like that. But there's almost always parsley. Oregano is a very common one. My recipe also has a little bit of tarragon in there, and it has garlic and shallots. The optional part, if you want some chili flakes in there, a lot of people will put chili in there. It's one of the common or traditional ingredients in there. Lemon juice and some red wine vinegar in here. So there is some acid that's going to help to kind of cut through the richness, kind of balance everything out. But it's a very bright and vibrant kind of a sauce, and it really works well with the Malbec. I think that's why there's a tradition of having Argentinian grilled meat or asado off the asado, and then having some chimichurri or some form of a salsa verde to go along with it. So it really works well. So I have that already made ahead of time. Get your herbs chopped and make it up ahead, and it should work out really nicely for you.
Well, and having that little bit of acid in the chimichurri, I think is really going to go well with this Malbec, because it's just got a bright pop of acid with it as well. And I think that's going to complement back and forth. I'm sure you were thinking about that.
Yeah, it does. And I know that our wines always have a really nice acid finish to them. They have a nice tartness to it at the end. So it's a kind of a palate cleanser. So as long as I go up to that level of the acid and not make it too sour, too tart, I'm not going to change the flavor of the wine. It's not going to become kind of flat and flabby. This way it will still have that nice balance. And that's really what we're looking to do. So as I look at this tri-tip, I see that the lines or the muscle fibers are running in one line. And so I want to make sure that I shorten those up. So as I do this, I'm going to slice thinly and against the grain. So if you can imagine the muscle fibers run this way, I'm going to slice it up and down this way. So that's an important thing to do to make sure that there's some nice tenderness and that you shorten up the muscle fibers that are in there. So as you go to chew it and eat it, it has a nicer mouthfeel to it. And you can slice as much as you want. Just follow the line and make sure that you're going opposite of that.
Paige, Neil is saying that it's looking pretty great, chef, once again.
This is fun to do. A nice piece like this on a new grill. Pretty exciting.
Beautiful.
A nice pink, and there's definitely the nice juiciness in there, and that comes a lot from the fact that the big green egg has the lid that you can close on there, and when you do that, what that does is basically keep a lot of the juice and the moisture in there. So I'm going to go ahead and garnish with the mushroom as well. A few slices of the mushroom. Any of your wonderful summer vegetables, your favorites. This is just a nice hearty way to add vegetable to it.
Now, Todd, did you marinate that mushroom first? Because you always do the mushroom so well, and I just haven't figured out what your trick is.
I did marinate them a little bit ahead of time, and you can put some garlic, maybe some shallots, and some extra virgin olive oil. If you want to put fresh herbs in there, you can as well. Sometimes a little splash of vinegar is fine, but you don't want to make it too sour if you went with that. So here's some of those beautiful kind of charred and smoky roasted red onions to go with it as well. I'm going to go ahead and put some of my chimichurri sauce kind of right over the tip there. And then you can always have a little bit extra if you wanted to on the side as a personal touch thing for anyone who wanted a little bit more.
I saw someone just suggested if you have any left over, it's great on your eggs tomorrow. Not on your big green egg lid, but on your scrambled eggs for breakfast. Just
a fun little touch I always like to do as well is use some of our Cabernet infused sea salt, where I take the Cabernet and I kind of cook it down, reduce it down. I'm just going to put a little bit over there, put some on the plate as well in case you want to wipe it through there. If it needs a little bit more salt or your personal taste on there, this way you got some of the red wine, the Cabernet that's infused into it. So I've got recipes on this. If you haven't already seen that, it's on the website. So you can check out our website under the recipe section, and you can find this as a fun kind of a seasoning ingredient, taking advantage of the fact that we've got wonderful wine here.
Well, that looks
a wonderful plate right there, along with some of our Malbec to go with it. You're kind of tying into some of those classic proven pairings that have a chimichurri sauce to go with grilled meats, and the slight smokiness here
really makes the fruit pop in this Malbec. It's so fruity and flavorful, but it still has a wonderful acid there in the finish. So it's kind of refreshing your palate with every bite that you take.
Well, and that little pop of salt also kind of brings that juiciness forward too. I love that. It looks fantastic. What's going to be the next wonderful creation we're going to do on this big green egg? When we do, we're going to have another session towards the end of August. Is that going to be a surprise?
Yeah, there's so many ideas and so many creative things that you can do. I'm going to take a look at their website and see what kind of proven recipes that they have that they feel really good about. There's a lot of different accessories that you can buy too. So you can do some stage cooking. You can cook higher up in the actual dome. You can cook down low. There are grills that are half and half. So if you wanted part of it to be diffused a little bit and the other part not to be, so you can buy all different kinds of accessories, all depending on what you want to do and how creative you want to get. You could do entire full meals in here, even desserts and things like that. Some fruits and things you could cook in here. So a lot of versatility and a lot of options.
Well, I love the pizza stone in it because it is amazing. You can get that big green egg so hot, over 750 degrees. And if you make naan or you like making your own homemade bread, it's wonderful to make it like your own little pizza oven. It's just fantastic. And that looks amazing. Again, Chef Tod, you've outdone yourself. You got us all ready for the holidays. Any tips if we're using a conventional grill that we should have for doing that tri-tip?
Same kind of idea. You want to basically get it all preheated. So if you're using charcoal or if you're using gas, make sure it's nice and hot. Temperature wise and your approach on it depends on how you want to do it. If you wanted to try a low temperature to start with, very, very low, and cook it softly. That way the muscle itself doesn't necessarily tighten up all that much. And then you can finish with the reverse sear afterwards by increasing the heat. You could also do what more common thing is probably to go incredibly high temperature and then turn it down, especially if you have gas where you can kind of control it. Otherwise, if you want to go slow and low all the way through, you could do that as well. Set it off to the side. If your particular grill allows you to heat up part of the grill and you have kind of an indirect heat source, you can cook over the slower kind of lower temperature spot while your heat source comes off to the side there. So it becomes almost a little bit maybe more like barbecue. That's what it is, slow and low. So you have a lot of different variations, and it all depends on what type of grill you're using, what your fuel source is, what kind of flavors are infused in there. Even you can get into, this is plain simple salt and pepper on here. I really want the meat to kind of stand out on its own. But a lot of people have their favorite kind of seasoning salt mix, or they make their own seasoning salt that they put on there from dried spices and dried herbs and things like that. So it's a lot of variations and variables.
Well, it looks fantastic once again, Chef. I do have to ask, because you know that I am a slave to my temperature probe. It's the only reason I don't kill everything. So if I want to go rare, medium rare, what temperature should I be pulling the meat off the grill?
Right. So you can assume that, especially at maybe a lower temperature coming off the grill, the piece of protein or whatever it is will continue to cook up, and it could be anywhere up to 5 degrees higher temperature. So if you were to pull it at 120 degrees, it would rest up and carry over and continue to cook up to about 125, which is a really nice medium rare. So you had that variance there where it's going to increase and keep cooking. Likewise, if you wanted to go a little bit further, pull it out at 125, it'll carry up to about 130. 130 is closer to a medium, so a light pink in there. And likewise, another 5 degrees is going to take you up to about a medium well. And then all the way up, if you wanted it well done, you could go up to about 160 degrees, because by the time it carries over and cooks, you're going to lose all your pink color in there. So it'll be cooked all the way through if that's the way you like it.
Awesome. Thank you for the tips. I'm really looking forward to trying your sourdough bread cooked on that pizza stone as well, with the Sauvignon Blanc yeast from last season. So that starter's going well. And hopefully we'll see folks out at the winery in August for some live chef demos towards the end of the month, or again online. We hope we're going to see you traveling soon and visiting us here in the Napa Valley. Thanks so much for joining us, and Tom for your thermometer posts, and for all of you for joining us and joining in. we appreciate it. So until we see you next time, the perfect pairing next week, we've got friends from around the country going to teach us how to perfect our pairing, along with Elizabeth, my colleague from the Southeast. She's going to be hosting next week. And we hope you all enjoy it and have a fantastic 4th of July. Be well, be kind, and cheers. We'll see you soon. Thanks. We'll see you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks. Happy 4th.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you. It was great.